Oh, I can't wait to talk about Pepsi Peeps, but I skipped the Georgia thing. Do you want to enlighten us on what's going on in Georgia?
So a bunch of bullshit's happening in Georgia. Let me bring up that. Now, it happened either today or I have to look at the story. I had it out,
No,
but
it's
then you
weird. Can I just
Suez
say
Canal'd
something
me.
about you? Because the Suez Canal, the Cinnamon Toast Crunch guy, and this Georgia story, I can't tell if it's been around for 3 weeks or a day and a half. Like, I don't know what happened in the last day or so, but time has been very strange in the last day.
Year.
Yeah. Well, also true, but I feel like the Suez Canal thing. I thought it was like a week long thing, and you're like, oh no, it was
This
yesterday.
happened yesterday. The day
Yeah.
before. It's been a day, but it's still stuck, and there's no
Yeah.
hope of it going anywhere for a little
Same thing with
while.
the cinnamon toast crunch. I feel like this has been like a 4 week story. It's only like 2 days old. So
That I'll give you. I feel like we've been talking about it forever.
yeah.
But so yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but I'll give you what I could remember. So the in Georgia decided to block a bunch of voting rights. There's a lot of voter restriction going on in Georgia since the last election, and I got to tell you, it's a bunch of bullshit. So what they're pulling down there, they're limiting drop boxes for mail-in voting. They're cutting back on them, so they don't want people mailing in voting.
Mhm.
Um, they're cutting the times that people can vote. They're this is off the top of my head, so please forgive me if I screw up a little bit of these details. Um, they putting a lot of more restrictions on the voting and mail-in process because they're doing a lot more identification checks and all this stuff. So they're limiting how many people can actually effectively vote by mail. Also, another just pointless. There's no even why are you even arguing this? Like, what is the? I could see people arguing one side or the other, but for this, there's no argument. They are literally, it's a misdemeanor now. If you see people online voting, if I gave them, if I gave someone online voting what food or water, I could get a misdemeanor. I could be arrested.
So you see a bunch of voters online waiting to vote, and you give them a bottle of water, and that's a misdemeanor.
That's a misdemeanor
Who came
now
up
in
with that?
Georgia.
I mean, literally. Like I get it.
Assholes.
I get that you're like, oh, here's a Trump water or here's a Biden water, like but I mean, who's
No, but
I,
that's not the law. It's any bottle of water for anybody's
no, I
tank.
know what I'm saying. Like, I'm sure that's I'm sure some candidate down there was giving away water, and that's what spurred this. But it's like I don't think a bottle of water at the last minute is going to sway your decision
Now
making.
I'm voting. Yeah, no, that's it's ridiculous. It's because people were standing in line for hours and hours and hours, waiting to vote, and they're trying to stop people from doing that.
Oh,
And
I
it's
see.
like,
That's probably what happened. So probably the people that were like, probably the Democrats were out there be like, "Don't go, don't stay here. You want water? You're thirsty." That's probably what happened. That's probably
and
why
what's
that's
wrong with
happening.
that? Democrat or Republican? Republicans can do the same. What
Well,
are gonna do?
that that's the interesting thing.
I never heard of giving someone water. Crime.
That's the interesting thing is it's even. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah,
understand the manipulativeness of being like, "Oh, stay here, please vote, stay." But it's even because you really know who that person is going to be. I mean, unless they're wearing a Biden pin or a Trump pin or whatever, you don't really know who they're going to be voting for. Although
yeah,
some would
exactly.
say, like, oh, if they're this nationality or this, if there's a woman, they're voting for this. So some might say that, but still, I still think especially
And it's
this
not.
past election, that was more than ever. The minority votes that the Republicans got was like the highest ever. So that's not necessarily true either. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's the first time Georgia was lost to was a flipped to Democrat
Well,
in
this is
like not first time, but first time in
a
decades.
long time. Well, and that's my point because you're sitting there with a Republican state legislature. What'd you think they were going to do? I mean,
Yeah, but they're not playing. They're changing the rules because they lost.
yeah, that's
It's
what they do.
bullshit.
That's what everybody does.
What the hell is that? You lost. Get over it.
That's America. No, because they're gearing
Try
up
harder
for
next time.
they're gearing up for the next round.
But what they're doing is it's un-American. It's not fair. They cut so now you can't vote for it. Has to be between 9 and 5. So people who have to work for a living can't take off or vote after a certain time. So they're it's really affecting anybody who can't vote during the normal. Yeah, it also makes a misdemeanor for people offer food and water to voters in line in a state where people sometimes wait for hours in the heat to vote. So it's
I got to be honest with you. When
ridiculous.
I go to vote, I bring a hero sandwich with me and eat it in front of everybody and go, "You guys hungry? Because this is delicious. I wish I could share with you."
You can't. God forbid you give a bite to someone standing in line behind you. You get arrested.
No, I wouldn't share with anybody anyway. But I'm just saying, I like to make people as jealous as possible.
Well, if you're white behind and you're with her,
say that again.
You're screwed. But again, if your wife's behind you, you can't give her a bite, I guess.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, right? Thank you. You're not even listening to what I'm saying.
No,
where are you?
That's really funny. Me? Like, the officer, that's my wife.
Nope, arrested.
I don't give a shit. Get down on the floor. The bill, according to this article here, the bill standardizes voting hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or as long as 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It requires 2 Saturdays of early voting instead of 1 and makes 2 Sundays optional for early voting. It continues to allow absentee voting without offering a reason, but requires a state-issued ID to request a ballot. The bill also bans handing out water and food to voters waiting in line at the polls and shortens runoff elections from 9 weeks to 4 weeks.
Exactly. Which a lot of the runoff elections is what got the people that passed this bill.
Right.
That's what elected.
But it sounds like I don't know why it's 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Why don't you just make it 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. But that doesn't sound like they're restricting.
I think the amount of places too. They're not. I think if you keep reading again, I skimmed through it, but the little that I read about it before this started, it's just not fair. I mean, if every state did this, it would really.
Are you upset about this though? Because basically Trump talking a lot of shit, and now there was some action based off of the bullshit that he was talking.
Partly, but I'm more upset because they're restricting. I mean, why can't it be everybody votes? Why are you afraid of people voting? Let them vote. What's the problem? Why are you restricting?
Okay, can I just say this? Because I there's a lot of in the weeds here that I don't want to get into, but I never understood why, and I feel like this is a standard thing of why Republicans want to restrict voting. Like, again, it's a level playing field. So if you're restricting voting,
because they want to make it unlevel.
I understand that, but my point is why is voting restriction advantageous to the Republicans? Is what I could never fully understand.
Because it's a lot to do with, and they'll deny this up and down, but it's a lot to do with they don't want minorities.
Right, and I know there's that thing of like, oh, minorities don't have IDs or whatever, or less likely to have IDs. But I feel like
they have to work. They have to.
Or if they have to work. But I feel like it's 2021. Like, who doesn't have an ID?
Not everybody. Someone who doesn't drive, but if you don't drive, you don't have a driver's license. And where's your ID?
Yeah, but I don't even know why I had it, but I had a state ID before I had a driver's license.
Yeah, you got to apply for it. You got to. I mean, there's not everybody can get one. I don't know.
I guess so.
Hold on.
I guess so, but I also feel
it's
like
weird. There's a lot of things that make it.
If you're cutting it down from 9 to 5, which I don't think is right, because I think there should be plenty of hours after and before the standard work.
I think everybody should have off. It should be a holiday. First
of all, you're right about that. It really should be. And if it's not, if you're in a job where you have to work, they should give you 3 hours to get to a voting place and and get back. You know what I'm saying? Like you should be able to work that out throughout the course of your day somewhere.
Right. You should be let out to do it. Now, also, there's stuff that let's see, aims to restrict access to the ballot box following record turnout in the election. Um, Also, it's something with if there's some kind of dispute over certain votes, it goes to this person who it wouldn't have gone to before, who's like
Oh
in
yeah, you were
charge of it
saying.
now.
But
Yeah,
it
there's
says here that there is early voting on Saturdays, and they're like gonna open up early voting time. So that's that's something. That
yeah, exactly. Again, I haven't read through all of this. There's a lot to go through, but from the little that I've seen, what they're trying to do is just limit and have more control over who
okay.
gets the vote
Here you go. The
and
bill
what's
would
going on.
also wrest election authority from Georgia's Secretary of State, allowing the legislature instead to appoint a chair of the state election board.
Yeah, anybody they want. Does that seem fair?
It doesn't because I don't know how many seats are in the state legislature, but I know it's multiple. And the odds are that the Republicans will have the majority there. So even if they were to not have the attorney general, they could find a way to circumvent that. Yeah.
Yeah, what's going on is not. I mean, how they passed this. And what about there was a woman, I don't know her name, but there was a woman in Georgia who, when this bill was being signed, are you still hearing me?
Yes,
Okay.
I hear you.
When this bill was being
Gladys
signed,
Knight, I believe, is the woman you're referring to. She got there on a midnight train. I wasn't waiting for you to invite me to take a bow. I was taking a bow anyway on that one.
well done, sir.
You can't say there was a woman in Georgia and then leave that big of a pause and not expect me to slam dunk
What?
it. Go ahead.
There's no women in Georgia other than Gladys Knight?
Well, no, I mean, for the joke purposes, that was the first
Yeah,
one
I
I thought
guess
of.
so. All right, fine. Fine, well done.
My brain went to Ray Charles first, but I couldn't make a joke there. So
Didn't work there. So
Yeah.
you flipped the switch pretty quick. That was good.
Thanks, pal.
There was a woman who, while the bill was being signed, she worked in the government building where it was happening.
Okay.
She simply knocked on the door. This was all signed behind a closed door, by the way. She knocked on the door and wanted to get in there to see what was going on, to see this law change, to see them sign this bill. She was arrested.
Oh.
Why? Woman of color, by the way, a black woman.
Well, I don't know what that is.
I'm just saying, she was standing there. All she was doing was knocking on the door, and they arrested her for what? I don't know, but they let her out soon after. But she worked there.
I mean, look, obviously this is a Republican legislature. They're responding. It's not.
Make up the rules as you go. It's fine. Whatever you want to do.
Basically, that's what it is. And
I mean, how is this like allowed? How is that even a thing? How?
Well, states can make up their own minds. State laws they pass. They pass. That's what they do.
Yeah, but isn't like the federal government there to step in and be like, what the hell are you doing? They can't say, a state wait, hold on, I'm listening again. Okay, if a state all of a sudden said it's illegal to have more than 2 kids, I feel like the federal government can go, hang on a second.
Well,
you can't do that.
No, because states' rights supersede federal rights.
So a state can do anything they want.
But I think
I don't. But
no, because all this has to be like there's checks and balances. But
that's what I'm saying. There should be stuff that's like. Hey,
but there is within this. There is inside the state, not federally.
So, as long as the state's controlled by people who want to do something stupid gets passed.
Well, it's like prostitution's legal in certain states.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. It's illegal in the country, but certain states it's legal.
Right. But there's checks. I feel like there's checks and balances to stuff. Like there shouldn't be this. We could make up any law.
No, you're just upset
Like,
because your side lost on this one. It's
no,
making
it's
it more.
nothing to do with my side or their side. This is a handing water to someone waiting online. What is the purpose of that?
Yeah, because like
What is the purpose of making that illegal?
They're worried about bribes and all that kind of stuff because they're worried that if people are waiting online and they're like getting frustrated and they want to leave,
Yeah.
that'll help them stay.
That'll make them stay, yeah, and vote, which is their right.
Yeah.
So a bottle of water while they're standing there outside in the Georgia heat or whatever. I don't know what it's like in Georgia in November. But if they're standing outside in Georgia, I have no idea. But they can't have food. That nobody can give them a bottle of water. Not sell them. Just give them. I could see some kind of case being made for selling water. You know, it's not a commercial thing. You're voting. It isn't like a baseball.
Actually,
park.
I could see a case being made for actually selling the water. Like, hey, if you're thirsty, here's a bottle of water for $2.
Right, but I could see also the other side saying, well, we're here for one purpose. This isn't a money-making thing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely weird. I'm not saying you're not right about the bottle of water thing. It's definitely strange, but it's a form of trying to buy a vote at the last minute kind of thing, which I don't think would actually happen, but people may perceive that it would.
Yeah, but none of this would be happening if all this bullshit wasn't. You know,
that's what I think is burning your ass most out of all of this, is because it's born out of complete nothingness.
It's born out of we lost and we have to make sure we don't lose again.
Yeah, but this is not uncommon. This is not an uncommon practice from.
Well, it's not democracy. It's not.
Yeah, but I'm sure I could point to a time when Democrats did this in the exact.
I would hate that
manner.
Too.
Yeah,
I would hate that too.
But that's just kind of what happens. Like, I think that's how, this is how things go.
Oh, it's just the way it is.
Well, McConnell and all them switched how things were voted on in the Senate, and now that's coming back to bite them in the ass. And now they're like, well, it shouldn't be this way. It's like, well, you guys turned it this way. Like,
yeah, you know what it's like? It's like if McConnell and whatever passed all the stuff before it switched. If McConnell and everybody passed all this stuff, and then all of a sudden the last law they passed was, remember everything we did? Untouchable.
Right.
Well,
it's funny because now
like wishing for more wishes.
Now they call out the Democrats for doing things the way that they did them, and they're like, it's not right to do that. It's just like the Democrats were saying that shit to you, and you were doing it. And around we go. No,
but they're not playing by the rules, is what I'm saying. They're just making shit up just to make sure that their side wins. That's
Agree.
What they're doing.
It's not the rule. Well, but that's how it is, though. That's
not the way it should be.
Let's just make up the rules as we go, and if we want to change things around, we change things around. Don't forget, the Republicans are going to be sour on the fact that all the rules were changed because of the pandemic. You couldn't vote the way we voted during this election if it wasn't for extenuating circumstances of the pandemic. And you ask any hardcore Republican, and they're going to tell you the only reason why Biden won was because of people being able to send votes in. And they'll go further and tell you shouldn't have been able to do that because there was no threat in going to a polling place to actually vote yourself in person. That's what they'll say.
No, but the other side is the only reason a lot of Democrats voted by mail is because Trump was telling all of his followers, don't vote by mail.
Agree. He probably shouldn't have said that. He probably would have made this a lot closer, if not possibly won, if he would have said.
And then all of a sudden, all these Democrat votes come in for Biden by mail, and he's like, "Oh, we got to stop counting. What are we doing? Yeah. Why are we counting all these votes?"
Agreed.
Because they're votes. You giant asshole.
Agreed. But
is my argument.
They'll make the case. They'll make the case that he wouldn't have even gotten close to that many amount of votes if people didn't have to vote. Couldn't vote from the comfort of their own home and just mail it on in.
Okay. What? So They did.
Well, yeah, well, but I'm saying, like, you're talking about changing the rules. We changed the rules for this election.
No rules changed. They just voted more.
No, every rule changed. You could not. They
You could vote by
extended.
mail. Oh
But
yeah, no, they changed rules to accommodate people who couldn't leave the house. I get it, but it should be.
I mean, that was the basis for
rules should
every.
change
That was
to
the
make
basis
voting
for.
easier.
That was the basis for every Republican argument in Pennsylvania. Was why did we change the rules to begin with? That's what they were fighting the entire time.
Fine, but we changed the rules. See, changing the rules about voting should make it easier for people to vote,
right?
Not harder. So if you're going to change the rules on voting, it shouldn't restrict voting. It should just make it easier for people.
Some will argue if you make it easier to vote, you're making it easier to vote multiple times.
That's not a good argument because there's things.
Tell that to the Kennedy people. That's basically how he won Chicago. I mean,
what?
That's how Kennedy won the election when he ran. In Chicago, they voted. All the dead people voted and voted 3 times.
That was 70 years ago. What are you?
I know, but I'm just saying. That's what happens when you relax the rules so much. Ago. I agree.
No, we're not talking about relaxing all the rules. We're talking about making it easy for average citizens, people, not even average, above, below, whoever, citizens. Yeah. We're talking about regular people.
I agree that everybody should have the day off or be given plenty of time to go out and vote. Because, again,
government should be making it easier, not harder.
This was the most voted popular election, and still more than half of the country stayed home and didn't vote. I mean, that says something.
And everybody's like, "Oh, how did Biden get 80 million votes?" Because a massive amount of people voted. Record number of people voted. That's why. It's only 7 million more than Trump got. I mean, you're not surprised at what Trump got. Why are you surprised at what Biden got?
Are these numbers accurate? I'm going to check with the My Pillow guy and see.
Yeah, he'll know.